Good morning, third grade. I'm now looking great. I woke up and jumped on a meeting this morning. I've already had 2 cups of coffee. I invited Howard to our read aloud. But that stinking goat, where'd he go? There he is. Do you see him way up here? I mowed that lawn yesterday evening, and it must taste really good mowed because he's been out there munching hours. And I kept saying, come on up to my meeting. Come on up to my read aloud. Howard's having no part of it. So I'm outside again, thank goodness, my favorite place to be, to read to you. Remember that they were in the middle of taking all of their exams. Things were pretty wild. He had just finished a History of Magic one. Wednesday afternoon met herbology in the greenhouses under a baking hot sun, and then back to the common room once more, with the backs of their necks sunburnt, thinking longingly of this time the next day, when the exams would all be over. Their second from last exam on Thursday morning was Defense Against the Dark Arts. Professor Lupin had compiled the most unusual exam an exam is like a test, just in case you didn't know, that any of them had ever taken, a sort of obstacle course outside in the sun, where they had to wade across a deep paddling pool containing a grindalow, cross a series of potholes full of redcaps, squish their way across a patch of marsh, ignoring the misleading directions from a hinky punk, and then climb into an old trunk and battle with the new boggart. "Excellent, Harry," Lupin said, as Harry climbed out of the trunk, grinning. "Full marks," which means like A+. Flushed with his success, Harry hung around to watch Ron and Hermione. Ron did very well indeed until he reached the hinky punk, which successfully confused him into sinking waist-high into the quagmire. Hermione did everything perfectly until she reached the trunk with the boggart in it. About a minute inside, she burst out again, screaming. "Hermione," said Lupin, startled. "What's the matter?" "Professor McGonagall," Hermione gasped, pointing to the trunk. She said I failed everything." It took a little while to calm Hermione down. When at last she had regained a grip on herself, she, Harry, and Ron went back into the castle. Ron was still slightly inclined to laugh at Hermione's boggart, but the argument was averted by the sight that met them at the top of the steps. Cornelius Fudge, Minister of Magic, sweating slightly in his pinstriped cloak, was standing there staring out at the grounds. Harry started at the sight of him. He started at the sight of Harry. "Hello there, Harry," he said. "Just had an exam, I expect. Nearly finished." "Yes," he said. "Yes," said Harry. Hermione and Ron, not being on speaking terms with the Minister of Magic, who's like the president of magic in England, of Great Britain, hovered awkwardly in the background. "Lovely day," said Fudge, casting an eye over the lake. Pity. He sighed deeply and looked down on Harry. "I'm here on an unpleasant mission, Harry. The Committee for the Disposal of Dangerous Creatures required a witness to the execution of a crazy hippogriff. As I needed to visit Hogwarts to check on the Black situation, I was asked to step in." "Ugh. Does that mean the appeal's already happened?" Ron interrupted, stepping forward. No, it's scheduled for this afternoon," said Fudge, looking curiously at Ron. "Then you might not have to witness an execution at all," said Ron stoutly. "The hippogriff might get off." Before Fudge could answer, 2 wizards came through the castle doors behind him. One was so ancient he appeared to be withering before their eyes. The other was tall and strapping, which means like muscular, with a thin black mustache. Harry gathered that they were the representatives of the Committee of the Disposal of Dangerous Creatures, because the very old wizard squinted towards Hagrid's cabin and said in a feeble voice, Dear, I'm getting too old for this. 2 o'clock, isn't it, Fudge?" The black-mustached man was fingering something in his belt. Harry looked and saw that he was running one broad thumb along the blade of a shiny axe. Ron opened his mouth to say something, but Hermione nudged him hard in the ribs and jerked her head towards the entrance hall. "Why do you stop me?" Ron said angrily as they entered the great hall for lunch, leaving the Minister of Magic. "Did you see them? They've even got the axe ready. This isn't justice." "Ron, your dad works for the ministry. You can't go saying things like that to his boss," said Hermione, but she too looked very upset. "As long as Hagrid keeps his head this time, and argues his case properly, then they can't possibly execute Buckbeak. Execute means, if you haven't caught on yet. But Harry could tell Hermione didn't really believe what she was saying. All around them, people were talking excitedly as they ate their lunch, happily anticipating the end of exams that afternoon. But Harry, Ron, and Hermione were lost in worry about Hagrid and Buckbeak and didn't join in the celebration. Harry and Ron's last exam was divination. Hermione's was Muggle studies. They walked up the marble staircase together. Hermione left them on the first floor, and Harry and Ron proceeded all the way up to the seventh, where many of their class were sitting on the spiral staircase to Professor Trelawney's classroom, trying to cram in the last bit of studying. "She's seeing us all separately," Neville informed them, as they went to sit down next to him. He had his copy of Unfogging the Future open on his lap, and the pages devoted to crystal gazing. "Have either of you ever seen anything in a crystal ball?" he asked them unhappily. "No," said Ron in an offhand voice. He kept checking his watch. Harry knew he was counting down the time until Buckbeak's appeal started. The line of people outside the classroom shortened very slowly. As each person climbed back down the silver ladder, the rest of the class hissed, "What did she ask? Was it okay? What was the test like?" But they all refused to say anything. "She says the crystal ball told her that if I tell you, I'll have a horrible accident," squeaked Neville as he clambered down the ladder towards Harry and Ron, who had now reached the landing. "Well, that's convenient," snorted Ron. "You know, I'm starting to think Hermione was right about her." He jabbed his thumb towards the trap door overhead, where Professor Trelawney is. "She's a right old fraud," which means she's fake. She don't know what she's doing. "Yeah," said Harry, looking at his own watch. It was now 2 o'clock. Wish she'd hurried up. Parvati came back down the ladder, glowing with pride. "She says I've got all the makings of a true seer." She informed Harry and Ron, "I saw loads of stuff. Well, good luck." She hurried down the spiral staircase towards Lavender. "Ronald Weasley," said the familiar misty voice from over their heads. Ron grimaced at Harry and climbed the silver ladder out of sight. Harry was now the only person left to be tested. He settled himself on the floor with his back against the wall, listening to a fly buzzing in the sunny window. His mind was across the grounds with Hagrid. Finally, after about 20 minutes, Ron's large feet reappeared on the ladder. "How'd it go?" Harry asked him quickly, standing up. "Rubbish," which means like garbage or awful, said Ron. "Couldn't see a thing. I made some stuff up. I don't think she was convinced, though." "I'll meet you in the common room," Harry muttered, as Professor Trelawney called, "Harry Potter!" The tower room... Oh, we're going to stop right there. Because the next part is really important. And I don't have time to go all, dang, this is going to be quite long. Remember that the chapter title is Professor Trelawney's Prediction, so you know something big is about to come. All right, hey, you guys have a great day, and I will send you a video in a little bit.